So, oh,
Okay.
sorry.
No, we're on the air. Go for it.
All right. So I was thinking about some of the organizational stuff that we talked about yesterday, and um, I don't know. Last night I was trying to make stuff work, but then I was thinking about it after I kind of stopped, and I think the best thing to do is to keep. There is one more thing I want to do to the code, and then worry about making it work. Um,
What is that one thing?
that one thing is to add the recursive require statement and actually make that work inside our Swan,
Oh, yeah.
and have our tests and everything share the same entry point to the code, right? You require Swan dot something if you want to test it.
Oh, interesting.
Um, because uh, I don't know,
Swan dot rather than swan slash.
Swan dot.
Okay.
Everything has the same entry point. We
Okay.
can test it
Well,
like it's a real package.
sounds good. Why don't I pray and then I'll watch you do that because I don't actually understand how that works.
Great.
God, I just thank you that when everything is crazy, that you are our firm foundation. We pray that we would build code that looks like you, that shows people your glory, and that we would build our lives around that, and that wherever we go, we would bring a taste of your kingdom. And Lord, I pray that things you've placed in us over these last few months would bear fruit wherever we go. Thank you, God, that we don't have to be smart, we don't have to be right, we don't have to be on top of things. We just have to be faithful and embrace circumstances you place us in, and you will bring forth blessing. Um, Thank you that we know what you require of us. Help us to live up to that. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. All right. And I will give up control, or at least controls.
All right. So this is where our recursive require is going to go. And let me just see.
Ah,
I mean, I could write it because it could be just a like you know a we could write a recursive file thing,
but
but
this is requiring files. You just look at the source and see what it does, and see if it's easier to just write it yourself.
oh no, I think it is easier to just use this.
Okay.
This is okay. Um, a lot of this functionality we don't actually need
Right.
because um,
The require tree was the one you were actually using.
I looked at both of them and I like require tree for
Okay.
some reason.
Okay.
So what do I want to do? I want to I want to require everything in the source directory, right?
Correct.
All right.
And it's not going to be upset that we're requiring God twice or whatever.
I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah, we can get rid of the require world since we don't. I think we wanted the ordering such that first we require God and then we require a world, and then everything else should just be leaf nodes, right?
Right. So I'm just saying, I don't know, let's just see if this works.
Okay.
I don't know what's going to happen. Cannot find module.
String. Oh, I think I probably have a name out there that's not.
Right.
Oh, what do I have here that's not? The 2JS? Where does require string coming in?
Right here, make world.
Oh, okay. I think we're going to get rid of make world. You could just delete that file entirely, I think.
Oh, really?
I mean, the goal is to replace it with dependency injection, or comment it out if you.
Right.
If we're doing that, should we just zero base everything and just remove all of our requires, or? Right. This is actually going to load everything, right? So everything that's not fully defined is going to cause it to blow up. Correct?
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe we should. I don't know.
How about we do this? How about we move everything out of source into a old directory and then bring it back piece at a time once we actually know what it's supposed to be doing?
We can do that. I just need a minute to think about how, like, right, I think what we're seeing is you have an issue with if you require everything at once in no particular order, you're going to get these issues where maybe not all the dependencies can be met.
I think the goal was to be that everything that we create should be loosely coupled or explicitly. Like, so for example, we could tell require string to call the swan string to call swan car because it has an explicit dependency upon it. And so if it gets loaded first, it will force the ordering.
Yeah, I don't know. I wonder if
Actually, no, there is actually some conceptual orderings that do matter. So the other way to do it that I was thinking of, if this is awkward, is that we have all these modules, right, or these folders.
Mm-hmm.
So is that having like a, in each of those we have a top-level thing which actually loads the things there in order, right? So wrap.coffee, explicitly loads those things in that order. So instead of doing require tree, we do it manually, and we actually, have a top level file which actually does all the requires.
Mm-hmm. Which is
because there is actually a strict ordering between these things, like that wrap comes before.
Right, but they should all just sort of figure that out as the require tree goes down. They should all just sort of figure that out.
How, with what information?
Because they all require each other.
Okay, that was the question. Do we actually have them all require each other, or do we just require everything from the top, and then they call into God to load the things that they need?
So the problem with that is that you have to have delayed. If you want to do that, everything has to be delayed execution. You can't call anything. You basically can't call anything.
Well, the thing is what is actually called? I mean, we can read and we can execute at the top level. We just can't execute any methods, right?
So what's being called is that it's our whole way of how we create things, right? If we look at element.coffee, instead of creating classes, we actually create objects, right? If this was a class, it wouldn't be an issue because
If
there's
the
no
element is a new world, so world has to exist, right?
right.
But it just creates that. It doesn't execute anything inside the bodies of those methods. It just calls. It just reads that file. So it calls new world. So world has to exist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But like for example, we don't actually have to require token here, do we?
No, I guess not anymore.
And most of it, when we add our typing, it's going to be based on name rather than anything else. So type should actually be the string token, I think, there.
Hmm?
Oh, right. Oh, I see token there. There is a factory thing there, right, that we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of all the places where it says worlds, anyway, we know that those are all legacy terminology.
Right. Where's my utilities? Are they still there? Or did you delete those?
Utils and
They're in God. Huh. Oh, that was enough to take care of our requirement dependencies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. Save it.
If everybody dependency injects, we should have something.
Cool.
And then we would, I don't know how. So to you, what is like?
So the idea is that when I look at the list of folders, right, is that first we have our wraps, which are primitive. Then we have our syntax, and then we have our eval.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are assuming that these things have already been, the other things have already been defined, and that they're rendezvousing on the God object.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that I was imagining it was that we control the ordering explicitly, so that, so for example, the way that I would the way I imagine the evaluate object being built up is that in evaluate.coffee, I say first load the characterizer, and then load the lexer, and then load the parser, and then load the evaluator, and they all push themselves onto the evaluate object, such that when I run it, it does a pipeline on them. So it's all loosely coupled, injected in explicit orders.
But how is it loosely coupled if it injects itself onto something?
Is it basically calls god.evaluate.push, and so the objects themselves have no idea where they come from or where they're going. That's all. That ordering is controlled by evaluate.coffee.
Okay.
And so we explicitly control the load order so that the execution order, and we structure it such that way, that's the one place where we track the ordering.
Okay. Okay. So you do want to require everything explicitly.
Well, given that I care about the ordering, it seems like I should be explicit about it.
Why do we need to care about the ordering if everything's supposed to be loosely coupled?
Well, that's how they get away with being loosely coupled. Is that rather than each thing implicitly having to specify its dependencies and resolve it, we actually manage it explicitly in these coordination files. So the contents themselves are, let me rephrase that. The modules themselves don't have explicit knowledge of their dependencies. There is an explicit coordination file that manages those things. So I don't know if loosely couple is the right word, but the sense is that you want them to be agnostic.
Okay.
I'm kind of making up this design pattern. Like, I don't know if this is a good idea, but it is an idea. So, did you push where you're at now?
No.
Want to do that? Maybe I can drive for a bit and see if I can illustrate what it is I'm trying to say.
Sure.
Is it worth running in Flubits, or should I just share my screen once?
Just share your screen.
Okay. Do you want to go and push and merge it into master? You have it semi-working now.
You ever have those moments where you write something or say something and then you realize you had something much more clever to say?
Yes.
All right. Now I will give up control, and you go ahead.
Okay. Let's find the right window to. Present to everyone. All right. Okay. Here. Okay. Git checkout dash B. Explicit fires. And dot. Okay. So where are we at in terms of some minor? Are you getting errors like that, or is that just me?
No, you are. I mean, yeah, I am.
Okay. Let's just.
If you do make test dash watch, it'll just run and not bother you.
Right. Yes, let's fix that. Dash watch
Yep.
goes up.
Yeah, I mean, that's because your code, and it's actually trying to run the code now.
Okay, that's why it's blowing up. So, okay, let's just go back and fix the thing we said we're going to fix. So we're in Swan. So the idea would be that these, so we're actually not doing it. So we require a tree that something like, actually, I guess it would be actually, no, those are going to be set implicitly by that. So we just, actually, we don't even need to do anything here. Or we don't assign them anything. In some sense, we would be dot wrap slash wrap. And syntax slash syntax. And then require evaluate slash evaluate. We do that, then we have and
You know what you can do actually? You can do if you do index.coffee, you can require the name of the folder, and it will automatically require the index.
That's even smarter. Excellent.
I learned that last night.
Right. The downside of that, as we discussed before, is that it becomes ambiguous when you have one open, but in this case, this is actually the one case where it is obvious because it really is an index, and it'll be obvious from its contents which one it is, hopefully. Oops, no slash, right? Yes?
No slash, yep.
Okay. And then next time it'll be so. Start with that. And we'll get going. And then let's see what actually happens then. Is that font size big enough, by the way?
Yeah, it's okay.
It's been a while since I've started. Okay, so in this case, we're only requiring a small number of things, and then once we do this, that was the question: is how do we want to do our spec dependencies on these things? I mean, the simplest thing. I would imagine would be to just do something like rather than having a lot of deeply nested stuff. I guess the simplest thing, I guess, would be to just, if we do this, so, okay, let me just ask the question. Like this guy here, this is the nil spec. Instead of having this, should we just call wrap and that'll implicitly get everything we need?
Not if you're using dependency injection. I mean, if you're using dependency injection, you can't do that because you have to. That assumes that you're actually exporting something. Realistically, what you're going to do now is you're going to require swan, and actually you don't require anything at all. Just set wrap because you're going to require swan in your main in our main spec.
Mm-hmm.
So just set nil to, God dot. I don't know where it is, but it's God dot something dot nil.
So that becomes a question of what exactly is the thing that's. So we could do. So for example, one way to do it would be God.modules equals. We want to actually have access to the modules rather than the result of the modules, and we do something like this.
Yep.
And the spec assumes, or the mocha.ops tells it to always load.
Yes. Yeah, Swan first.
The wrap index, should that also be something like this? Or moduled exports?
Yeah.
Um, somewhat. Um, okay, I think that's the. Okay, that's the thing I had in my head, that this is how these things would be related to each other. Um, um, oh wait, yeah, this is in the module space. What those things are there. Um, so, given I have this, um, can I actually then run this test?
Um, try make test dash watch.
So what was the test? I make test dash watch.
Make test runs CoffeeLint, and make test just runs the tests. So if you want, you could also fix those CoffeeLint errors.
Right. Um, do you have a code that actually is that a
That is not something I ever got to work in TextMate. Is
remove?
actually white space at the end of lines showing that.
Oh,
You can, yeah, because you're already showing it.
you can show it. The question is,
Right.
which one is which? This is where the oh, inside comma that complains. That's interesting. Um, 15, right. Watching someone else delete white space has got to be up there with watching paint dry. One error. What's the error? Index coffee under syntax, right? So now we get the real button errors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the first question is, can I just run like one test to, rather than having to worry about all my specs?
Yeah, you can. So go back to the test you want to run.
That was the nil spec.
Right. Actually, you're already doing that. Actually, search for describe.only. And make sure you only have one of those. So remove that, and then try it again. Try to run your tests again. Why are you running expression spec?
That is the question.
Oh, you know what? Look at expression spec.
Under spec.
Do you use Command T at all?
Command T?
Yeah.
No. Oh.
You can fuzzy find a file.
Ah, good to know.
Mm,
Is it the requires that are causing problems?
I don't know. Have you pushed all your changes?
I have not. It's push origin. Just copy line 6.
Let's see. I have it open on my machine now too.
Okay. I mean, it's even if there's not a describe. I mean, describe that only. Is there an ordering thing where it will only notice the describe only after it's? It shouldn't actually run any describes until it's read everything, right?
Right. Okay. I mean, I just commented out a few things. And now I'm successfully running the nil test. So I just, here, let me commit this, and then you can pull it down.
But I pushed all my change. I did some minor tweaks, but it shouldn't matter. Okay.
Oh,
I just changed some of my requires.
Okay.
What is the right way to pull that?
Oh, 1 second. Wait, but it's still not working. Okay, there we go. Okay, go ahead and do a git pull. And you should be able to run the tests now.
I don't seem to have your. What am I doing? The wrong sequence? Git checkout. Sorry, git checkout master. And then git pull.
Mm-hmm.
And then check out the social requires branch.
Uh-huh. and then do a make test.
But it doesn't seem to even have your changes in my log.
Well,
I don't seem to be pulling what you pushed.
It's up there on GitHub.
Okay. Right, and then I get pull. We go into master and then pull,
No,
right?
no, just go into explicit requires and do a get pull.
Oh, okay. Wait, that doesn't seem to work.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's why. So do this. Do a get push dash u. Or no,
Right.
push dash u origin space explicit requires. You need you're setting the upstream. Or don't. Okay, no, run that. Run this that middle command where it says if you wish to set tracking information, you can.
Mm-hmm. That.
Mm-hmm. And then do a get pull.
Ah, thank you.
There you go.
Yay. Okay. Now we're getting our null objects here. And then, okay. So the idea is okay, so whatever we're getting, it's okay. So now we actually have something that is properly broken, right? Okay. So let's just look at nil. So we should actually be defining what these wrappers. What does it mean to be a wrapper? So each wrapper is we want wrappers to be. So wrappers are different than. Okay, so this is where we define semantics of a wrapper, right? It should each wrapper must inject a typed world into god.wrap, and then let's actually think. This is actually interesting to think through. It's good to start with nothing, and then they should also export a function that what it's expecting, right? So the nil coffee should be something like let's see what nil should do. Right. Swan nil is. Didn't we have a bunch of other properties on God, or are those all implicit?
Um,
And then our nil spec, we talked about this, right? Yeah. The if and else.
mhm.
Oh, we just spec them out. We didn't implement it yet. Fine. Okay. So Swan nil is a world, and then when we create, when we spawn, um, um, the okay. Um, the idea is, what did I say? Okay, the module is going to be this thing that, so Swan nil here, it spawns. Dict doesn't do much interesting than that, and then the main thing is that it's God dot wrap dot push. Ah, right. This is where it gets interesting. Um, um, well, that makes sense, does it? We want to push something that will take an argument and return Swan nil. So I can actually push the factory, right? No. The factory,
Factory is what we use for everything else.
right. The so actually, this gets back. Okay, this is where I get to the hard question of what exactly is our type. Um, and I think we have to figure that out first. So instead of checking nil here, looking at world. But first, let's try this, get that working. Okay. We got 10 minutes. Let's see if I can clarify what's going on here. So why am I getting 3 errors when I only have 1? There's 2.
Which one are you trying to test?
The God spec.
Because it doesn't actually work. It doesn't work exactly like you'd expect to when you use only. It works using a regular expression grep. So any test that matches God is going to run. So if
Okay.
you change God to like what I do when I need to test it, if it's not working right, I just change it to crazy something.
Okay,
So,
that's actually fine since we already have a. It tells me that I already have a God spec underworld, which
and you can't have more than one dot only. They won't work. Only one of them will actually work.
right. That's fine. But in this case, it's actually a.
Blessing in disguise.
Yes. Okay, so this is what we expect of God. In this case, it doesn't actually have a do property. What do we expect it to have? It has a modules property. Do we
But
actually,
God isn't a world, is it? It's just an object.
right, the God.modules. Um, then this is almost actually the Swan spec, but worry about that now. So there's should those things that are in Swan.copy be here? Is actually better that they're here because that's our top level.
Say that one more time.
So right now, the module stuff is actually set in our top level Swan,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good thing.
Yep.
Which means, should these actually be in Swan spec rather than God spec? Would that be?
Um.
It seems like you would kind of expect the.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Um. Yeah. One thing that we would want to get away from, though, realistically moving forward, is any global dot something statements.
What do you mean?
Like how we use how we use global. Like if you look at SwanSpec, when we set global.god,
Mm-hmm.
that's a hack, and we should find a way to not do that.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because
we had that discussion. We had that discussion about whether or not that would set global to any package that required it, and it does.
oh, it does. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's crappy. Um, that implies. Okay, well, let's fix this now then before we hard code that expectation everywhere. Does that imply we can require God, and then any changes we make to God will be reflected in that object? So we just have um, what that actually implies to me is that we should just define this in Swan and then require Swan. No, I guess requiring. Um, so what would be the right design pattern for this then? Is everybody has God equals require God.God?
Um, I guess so. I mean, yeah.
Um, um, so this becomes that, and then our Swan spec is /source. Unless we made god.coffee index.coffee, but would that be?
Mm-hmm.
We could make god.coffee to be index.coffee, right? So that we get rid of one extra indirection.
Mm-hmm.
And then um, and then these specs all have to be designs within global space. Um, so where are we here? God. Get rid of that from Swan. is nil showing up again? Oh, because we have to require it, right?
Shouldn't world exist somewhere on God?
Yes, but it doesn't. Oh, right, it should. And that would mean that this should be. We have a lot of index.coffees running around, but it seems like it should actually. Hopefully, once we're not putting too much intelligence in them, it shouldn't become too annoying. And actually, the other way to do that is, I mean, the reason we use world everywhere is because we're creating everything there. The alternative is we have a method on God that creates the worlds, it creates things, right? So the idea would be that it spawns worlds. Let me check the instance of.
Yeah. To be dot instance of.
To be that instance of. Well, that makes sense if world is defined, right?
It had to be god.modules.world.
Right. If that's the thing that's exported by it, which I guess is what we would expect it to be. Right, so everything else that was explicit.
Recently happy is now very unhappy.
Right, so right now we're in world, right? So we have the world object, so the whole world is unhappy. Or now we get now we have to go through all these puppies and fix them. So this should be, this doesn't require anything except its children, but its children, who depends on what? This doesn't depend on anything. We were going to make this consistent, right? So this should be callable equals, and then module.exports equals callable, right? Still with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Feels weird to redefine the names and have it there, but I guess that's less perverse. So inheritable, this one depends on God. So God equals // God. Sorry. That's why that's bad. Okay. God is not defined in enumerable. Okay, let's go back. Why is it not enumerable? Oh, right. Of course, we need to inject. And why in the world is our Elixir showing up?
Because it's somehow you're requiring every.
Well, that's the question. Where am I requiring it?
Huh?
Where am I requiring it is the interesting question.
In any of the spec files, because
Oh,
Mocha runs recursively. So Mocha is running every spec. Mocha is checking every spec file, and if it has a world in there at the top level, it'll fail.
right. And these should become um, God.modules, right? Yeah, so we need the thing that we actually do have to put in everywhere is this. And that kind of replaces all of our requires, right?
But that won't work there because it's actually dot dot slash dot
Right.
dot slash source slash God or God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, for the sake of testing, I'm perfectly fine with putting the global in like this spec to simplify how you write the tests.
Yes.
That's okay to me.
Put what in? Sorry.
So if you go to the main spec file, which I think is called spec.coffee,
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine if you want to put global. I use lots of globals here. If you want to do global God there, that's fine.
Ah, yes.
That'll make it easier to write the tests, right? The code shouldn't actually do this because that will pollute our global scope. But when we're testing, it's fine.
And then we just do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice and clean.
Although I'm probably going to change that to
Change
oh,
what?
you set it to a string.
Oh, should we require?
Mm.
Change what to what?
I will probably change that to test God, so that we actually. Oh, you know what? I wonder if our Mocha ops is actually requiring spec first. Let me look. So open up mocha.ops
Right.
and add one more line that says require spec/spec.
Does that be before? It doesn't matter.
No, it should be after.
Okay, and now we get the regular
Okay.
world problem.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to change that global to like test God. The reason for that is that this will, if we do this, it will allow all of our source to get away with referencing God without it existing, and we don't want that to happen. So we want to make sure, yeah, we can do global to make our tests easier to write, but
should make our code easier to write. We don't want to have false e's.
Right.
All right. So I will stop there and run off to my lunch. So I should be back around 1:30 or so. So get whatever you can working, and
Cool.
I will touch base with you later. All right?
All right, that's good. Thanks, Ernie.
Bye.
Bye.